And welcome once again to another edition of Quick Trivia with Mike. It's the weekly game show right here on ECTV channel 955, where we test your knowledge of somewhat obscure but really fun trivia, and we see just how many of them you can get right. By winning, getting the most right, you could get your picture on channel ECTV as the champion for the week. So we hope you all have an opportunity to play, and maybe you will be in the winner's circle this coming week. Before I get into it though, let me tell you, many of you know that I just came off a 4-day weekend. My wife and I were cleaning out portions of our house. Some of you know that our first grandchild is on the way and will be born in early October. So we're busy getting ready in case the baby is ever over at our house. And as you can imagine, one of the things we did was throw away the crib that we had when we raised our own 4 kids. Everybody thinks by putting that crib up in the attic you'll be all set when you're grandparents. But safety standards have changed. You know, that the crib ended up going to the dump and we're going to end up having to buy something new. There's something now called a pack and play. I don't have any idea what that is, but my wife tells me we're getting one, so that if the baby's ever at our house, we'll be able to watch. You might have noticed that during the 4-day weekend, I also stopped shaving. You know, I've already heard some people wonder if maybe I'm trying to grow a face mask during the coronavirus pandemic here. Truth of the matter is, I just got a little bit lazy. I'll be shaving probably by the next time you see me. So there you have it. Let's get right into the game show though, shall we? As you know, we begin by reviewing the 3 questions from last week, and I give you the answers. We let you know who the winner was, and then we give you 3 questions for the coming week. Let's begin, shall we? I talked a little bit about World War II in last week's show. Specifically, there was a research and development arm of the British government that Sir Winston Churchill envisioned. It was called MD1, which stood for Military Defense 1. It was also euphemistically known as Churchill's Toy Shop. The goal was, in order to create new weapons that would give the Allies the edge up on the Axis powers in their quest to win World War II. We told you that one of the very prominent ones that they came up with was a limpet mine. What this was a sticky bomb that attached to the bottom of a ship. It could do so through the innovative use of a scuba diver. That in itself was really bold and innovative, but they also came up with a delayed fuse, so that the scuba diver could actually leave the area of impact and not receive any harm. It wasn't a suicide mission trying to blow up a ship. They used innovative things like a sock with sticky flypaper to adhere to things. They used condoms to create a waterproof coating for the delayed fuse. They also used children's candy. We might call it like jawbreakers or something like that, where your saliva will release flavor over a period of time into your mouth. That gave them the idea how to come up with a delayed fuse. So really some interesting things. I told you that there was a literary character that an author patterned this literary character after. It is a character that's very prominent in books. It also is very prominent in movies. Probably about 25 movies now this character appears in. The character has most prominently been played by a person by the name of, an actor by the name of Desmond Llewellyn. John Cleese also played the character. Ben Whishaw also played the character, and is playing the character right now. I asked you, who is this literary character? Well, let's begin with the author. The author was Ian Fleming. The character appears in the James Bond series of books and movies. The character that is patterned after MD1 is Q. Q, which was short for quartermaster. Bond would always refer to this gentleman as Q. This person was inspired by Churchill's toy shop, MD1. So there you have it. That was the answer to question number 1. Q is the literary character that was inspired by MD1. Last week, Friday, you remember, was opening day for the Milwaukee Brewers at Miller Park. It actually never ended up happening. You know, the Cardinals came down with coronavirus right within their very own clubhouse, and the game got delayed. In fact, by the time it was done, the whole weekend of games was delayed. But we took that opportunity nonetheless to talk about baseball in general and professional sports teams just to the south of us in Chicago. Wrigley Field in particular is what we were talking about. We also talked a little bit about the Wrigley family, the influence that they have had in Catalina Island off the coast of Los Angeles in California. We talked about their ownership of Wrigley Field. We also talked about the fact that in Wrigley Field's lifetime, there were 5 professional sports franchises that called Wrigley Field home. I pointed out to you that it was a bit of a trick question. First of all, Wrigley Field opened in 1914 and it was known as Wigman Park. It was named after the owner of one of the franchises who also had the ballpark built. I also pointed out that it was a bit of a trick question because 2 of the names refer to the same sports franchise. One franchise changed their name while they were a professional sports team playing out of Wrigley Field. I pointed out to you also that it was a bit of a trick question, and I explained why. The 5 sports teams, or rather the 4 sports teams, the 5 sports teams' names were the Chicago Federals, which played in Wigman Park, which was ultimately renamed as Wrigley Field. They played there in 1914. While they played out of Wigman Park, which ultimately became Wrigley Field, they changed their name to the Chicago Whales. So you have the Chicago Federals and the Chicago Whales, the same team, 2 different names over 2 different seasons. This was a professional baseball team in an alternative league. It wasn't the American League or the National League. It was an upstart that was trying to become on equal footing with the other 2. The league eventually disbanded and the team did as well. The second team that has called Wrigley Field home is the one we're all very familiar with, the Chicago Cubs. It has also been used for football. The Chicago Bears played out of Wrigley Field as well. For a while, not always, but for a while they did. And last but not least, the Arizona Cardinals used to be based out of Chicago, and they are called the Chicago Cardinals. So there you have it. Those are the 5 sports names of professional sports franchises that played out of Wrigley Field. Actually, nobody came up with the same answer that I did, but I'm going to call one of the alternative answers correct. First of all, one of the players this week identified the All-American Girls Baseball League. We all know that this was alternative baseball. When the men were off fighting World War II, women created their own sports league, the All-American Girls Baseball League. One of our players indicated that they thought the All-American Girls Baseball League played out of Wrigley Field. They did and they didn't, and I cannot consider this a correct answer. What I have found out is that the All-American Girls Baseball League played their All-Star game at Wrigley Field. I believe it was in 1943. But no professional All-American Girls Baseball team called Wrigley Field home that I was able to find. If someone is able to correct me on that, I will certainly be willing to update you next week. But as far as I can tell, the All-American Girls Baseball League played their All-Star game there, but no franchise called Wrigley Field home. There was another professional sports team, however, that was pointed out by one of our players that I am going to count as correct. The Chicago Sting, a professional soccer team. I looked it up, and our respondent actually was correct. From 1975 to 1982, and again in 1984, the Sting called Wrigley Field home. So I stand corrected. There actually were 6 professional sports teams that called Wrigley Field home. One of them that I did not get, but I'm going to count it as correct, in spite of the fact that nobody got the Chicago Cardinals, and that was one of the ones that I was looking for. So there you have it. Our players actually were able to correct me on one, and congratulations. My hat's off to you. We then talked a little bit about Milwaukee trivia. John Cudahy was in particular the individual we talked about. We told you a little bit about Patrick and Anna Cudahy, the founders of Cudahy Meatpacking in the town of Cudahy. All those names are not a coincidence. They're all related. We talked about their grandson, Michael Cudahy, a very well-known Milwaukee philanthropist, started Marquette Electronics. He actually built, or was the major philanthropist behind the creation of Discovery World. Marquette Electronics is very famous for the creation of the electrocardiograph system, which is now used in hospitals worldwide. And that really is one of the reasons Marquette Electronics dominated the market. And it made Michael Cudahy's name. But John and Patrick's son, Michael Cudahy's father, John Cudahy, is also famous. We all know that he graduated Harvard in 1910. He graduated UW Law in 1913. Served in World War I and actually was a hero. Freed over 600 American troops that were trapped in a northern Russian town when they were surrounded by Bolsheviks at the beginning of the Russian Revolution. He got those American troops out, and all's well that ends well. We talked about the fact, however, that John Cudahy actually served in politics for a while as a representative of the United States to European countries. Many people would call that an ambassador. It wasn't always, it didn't always go by that name, but it was basically serving as an ambassador. From 1933 to 1940, he served as the envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary to a European nation. It happened to be the nation of his ancestry. His grandfather, John Cudahy, the father of Patrick Cudahy, came from Ireland. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt appointed John Cudahy, the envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary, to Ireland. That was the answer to question number 3. You also know that we have bumper music on our show. We lead in and we exit with bumper music. My producer, Scott McFerrin, actually selects that bumper music for me. That is the tiebreaker. We give you the 3 questions. In case 2 or more people get the same number of questions correct, we use the bumper music as the tiebreaker. Well, apparently this week was an extraordinarily difficult week. We only had one person get 2 questions correct. I'm sorry, only 1 person got 3 questions correct. Nobody else got 3 questions correct. As a result of that, the Hills are the winners, and they return to the winner's circle this week. So you'll see their photo holding the esteemed Quick Trivia with Mike trophy all week on channel 955. Congratulations to the Hills. It was a difficult week, but you stood up to the challenge, and I'm proud of you. Good for you.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the second half of Quick Trivia with Mike. You'll see during that brief intermission I actually shaved and I changed my outfit. I had my producer Scott McFerrin check with the Centers for Disease Control, and we found out that it isn't legal to grow a beard to use as a face mask to combat the coronavirus. So here we are, we're moving on. At any rate, here we go with the 3 questions for this week. As you know, I sometimes like to go into presidential trivia, sometimes television. We've got a little bit of everything for you, but let's get right into it, shall we? Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. It's you, must go and I must bide. What a beautiful song. You know it as Danny Boy. Originally, however, the music was the first part of the song to exist. It was called Londonderry Air. An air is an Irish folk song, typically just acoustical. That was actually written in the 20th century. But over time, early in the, in the 19th century, Londonderry Air was written. In 1910, the beginning of the 20th century, a lyricist, Frederick Weatherly, created words to a poem which he called Danny Boy. His sister, Margaret, who actually lived in the United States at the time, sent him the tune Londonderry Air and said, you know, your poem would really go well with this. Well, he changed the lyrics a little bit to meet the tone and the volume, etc. of Londonderry Air, and the rest is history. Ironically, he actually, in the beginning, wrote 2 separate lyrics for Danny Boy. One, the Danny Boy version, was only supposed to be sung by women, and it was supposed to be sung about men. He also wrote a version, not Danny Boy, but that men could sing about women. Of course, we only know Danny Boy today. It's become one of the most beloved of Irish folk tunes, known the world over. Nobody really knows what Danny Boy was meant to infer. However, there are 2 primary thoughts on this. One of them is that Danny Boy was talking about a young man going off to war. The more likely interpretation of Danny Boy is that it heralded the Irish diaspora. The fact that Irish spread around the globe because of the potato famine and low income issues on the island of Ireland. And so this little ditty commemorates Irish throughout the world. It actually has become very, very famous, specifically in the Commonwealth Games. You'll see Canada and Northern Ireland actually play this for their athletes at the Commonwealth Games. Many, many recording stars have done versions of Danny Boy. Jim Reeves, Mario Lanza. One of my favorites, and possibly one of the most famous, was Bing Crosby. Andy Williams, Eric Clapton even, Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley. You can see that there are people from country western to rock, all the way to just big band artists turn this into a hit song for themselves. And really, it's one of the most beloved of all ballads. It actually originated in the county of Londonderry in Ireland. And that's why the tune is called Londonderry Air. So there you have it. That is the story of Danny Boy. Your question and your challenge is as follows. There was a hit television show on American television from 1957 to 1964. It went by two different names, one from 53 to 57, and then a second from 57 to 64. So actually I misspoke, it was from 53 to 64. Danny Boy was the theme music for this very, very, very popular American television show. Tell me the name of the show, or tell me the lead for the show. Either one, the name of the show or the lead actor in the show that used Danny Boy as their theme song. Again, it was from 1953 to 1964, and it went by two different names, one from 53 to 57, one from 57 to 64. Danny Boy was the theme music. What was that show? Or who was the lead actor? My second question for you now involves a little bit of presidential history. This time we're going to go to the United States Naval Academy, located in Annapolis. Originally founded in 1845 by the Secretary of the Navy, George Bancroft. The campus was established in Annapolis on the grounds of the former U.S. Army post called Fort Severn. The school originally opened with 50 midshipmen students and 7 professors. Originally, a course study of 5 years was prescribed. 2 of the years were at sea. 3 of the years were book learning in a classroom right at Annapolis. The present name was adapted when the school reorganized in 1850 and placed under the supervision of the Chief of the Bureau of Ordnance and Hydrography. The first class of Naval Academy students graduated on June 10, 1854. They were considered as passed midshipmen until 1912. In 1912, the officers or the graduates were automatically commissioned as officers in the United States Navy or in the United States Marine Corps. So the entire campus to the graduates and actually to the students there is known as the Yard, and it is a National Historic Landmark. It replaced the Philadelphia Naval Asylum in Philadelphia that served as the first United States Naval Academy, which was from 1838 to 1845. The candidates all must apply directly to the Academy, and they must receive a nomination, usually from a member of Congress. Approximately 1,200 plebes attend the Academy or enter the Academy each summer. About 1,000 of those actually end up graduating. So there you have it, a little bit of the background of Annapolis. My question to you, and you know I like to delve a little bit into presidential history. My question to you is that there is one and only one president who actually is a graduate of the United States Naval Academy. Who is that president who is a graduate of the United States Naval Academy? Our third question to you delves a little bit in terms of history, specifically revolving around the month of August. You all know in August, Richard Nixon resigned from the presidency due to the Watergate scandal, which really took hold of America from 1972 to 1974, and it ended with Richard Nixon's resignation. It began with a break-in on June 17, 1972, of the Democratic National Committee's headquarters in Washington, D.C., which were located in the Watergate building. That's why the scandal is known as Watergate. As a result, the Senate Watergate hearings were broadcast gavel to gavel nationwide by PBS. It really put PBS on the map as a news network. Prior to that, you all know I used to work at PBS. Prior to that, PBS was really educational and an import of British shows, which Masterpiece, for example, showed on Sunday nights. But the Watergate hearings really put PBS on the map as a news organization. What ended up happening to Nixon's presidency is that his complicity in the Watergate hearings completely eroded all support he had within Congress and Senate, and that actually precipitated his resignation from office in August 9th of 1974. The common belief is that if he would not have resigned, he actually would have been impeached. He had absolutely no support at all. He is the only president to have resigned from office. The Watergate scandal actually officially ended on September 8, 1974, when Nixon's successor, Gerald Ford, pardoned him. One of the things that really led to the ultimate scenario where there was just no turning back anymore was the United States Supreme Court decision that Nixon had to turn over recordings that he had made of conversations within the Oval Office. Phone conversations, impersonal conversations. Those were all recorded for posterity on a tape system. People didn't know that presidents were doing this at that time. The United States Supreme Court said that Richard Nixon had to turn those tapes over. Lo and behold, on December 7th of 1973, Congress discovered that an 18-and-a-half-minute portion of one recorded tape had been erased. Nixon's private secretary, Rosemary Woods, indicated that as she answered phones, she had forgotten and left her foot on the record button, and it erased everything on the tape. Subsequent forensic analysis of the tapes indicated that there were anywhere from 5 to 9 separate interruptions, which led to that full 18-and-a-half-minute gap. So people sincerely doubt Rosemary Wood's story about how this gap happened in the Watergate tapes. My question to you: who was Richard Nixon talking to during that 18-and-a-half-minute gap? Richard Nixon was on a phone conversation. He was talking to one person. Who was it that he was talking to? So there you have your 3 questions today. What show was Danny Boy the theme song for? Who is the only president who was a graduate of the United States Naval Academy? And who was Richard Nixon talking to during the missing 18-and-a-half minutes on the Watergate tapes? There you have it. Those are our 3 questions for this week. I hope you have a lot of fun with them. You can get your answers to me by Monday noon. If I didn't tell you earlier, the winners from last week were the Hills. They returned to the winner's circle, and you'll see them on Channel 955 all this week holding up the trophy. Maybe if you get these 3 questions correct, you can get into the winner's circle for next week. You can get your answers to me by email, mbeaver@eastcastleplace.com. You can call me at 963-8425 and leave a message. Slip a note under my office door, or go to the concierge and put a message in my mailbox. Get those answers to me by noon. If more than one of you get the same number of answers correct, the bumper music that my producer Scott McFerrin is going to select will be the tiebreaker, so be sure to include that in your answers. That's it for this week's show, Quick Trivia with Mike, right here on Channel 955. As always, I'd like to thank station management, our president Tyler Gudex, our executive producer Laura Wengler, my producer Scott McFerrin, and of course my artistic director is Cooper Ledvina. All of them really play a vital role in making this a successful program. Scott in particular, I just couldn't do it without him. My thanks and my praise for a job well done. There you have it, from right here in the studios of ECTV, Channel 955. I'm your host, Mike Brever. I'll see you next week.